Well, the hour has come. The time is nigh. 1:07 Eastern Time. Senator Shannon Jones, a good friend of Jeff Henderson's, has introduced her omnibus amendments, 50 to 60 of them, which is the final bill. And we'll see what happens there. Coming up at 2:07 today, we have Dick Morris on live to talk about his new book, Revolt, dealing with public employee unions and more. John Tamney, you're a great American. Welcome again to the Bill Cunningham Show.
Hi, Bill.
We had a call earlier today from a Teamster. As you know, there are thousands and thousands of truck drivers on America's arteries going up and down the Midwest listening to me every day. And he tried to make the point that public employee unions are really no different than private sector unions. I tried to explain to him the difference, and I'm not sure I was successful. How would John Tamney describe the existence of public employee unions that are different than private sector unions?
Well, they're different for one, because if you're working for the government, I think almost by definition you've said that you want to serve the public, and I don't think you serve the public by going on strike. But secondly, public employee unions can by definition vote themselves benefits on the backs of taxpayers. Teamsters or private unions that work for companies, they can try to vote themselves all the benefits they want, but if investors decide they don't like the direction of wages and health benefits, they can just pull their investment and basically put those union workers out of work. So
and they can go out of business. In other words, if Chrysler, Ford, or whatever, GM gave their employee unions too good a package, and they can't operate at a profit in the normal business structure, they would go out of business. But government can't go out of business.
It can't go out of business, and so the benefits can continue to rise. But as we find all the time, I'm not against unions, and I don't think you are on a private sector basis. If they want to form, go ahead and do it. But realize that if you negotiate too much and you roll management, it may be that management's out of a job, and so are you.
Well, I know the circumstance. You know, John Kasich and I have been buddies for 15 years. We play golf together. Good guy. He's got a burr stuck up his butt because the public employee unions spent about $15 to $20 million smearing the guy when there was no reason to smear him. And so now that he's in office, is it surprising that Corleone wants to go after Mo Green? Is it surprising that Corleone goes after Salazzo and Tattaglia and Banzini? Is it surprising that if public employee unions have lost and therefore they're going to lose?
No, it's not surprising at all, and I think all voters, whether they're for or against public employee unions, should have a real problem that their tax dollars are funding the political activities of someone else. And I would say the same thing. One of my jobs is at the Cato Institute. I don't like that there are nonprofits that get a tax break, because it may be that some Americans don't like the activities of the Cato Institute. So it's the same thing. The problem here is that taxpayers basically have to fund the smearing of politicians, some that they like and some they don't like.
And isn't that stupid for public employee unions to be in bed with one party because the odds are 50-50 you're going to lose?
Yeah, it's stupid. It's not surprising in the same way. Invariably, they're going to find the side that's going to be most conducive, if that's the word, to their needs. And so they've gotten in bed with the Democratic Party. Good idea as long as the Democrats are in power. But as we found recently, sometimes the other party takes over.
How do you see this working out? Right now in Columbus, Ohio, all hell's breaking loose. They got 20,000 protesters. Stages are set up. Danny Glover comes in, which I think hurts the cause. When you bring in real clowns like Jesse Jackson or Danny Glover or Sean Penn, what that does is communicate to those who are independent-minded like myself that you're a bunch of clowns when you bring in the fools.
I think so. I mean, I think this whole notion of Hollywood coming in and somehow star power changing the debate, it was played out long ago. I think most people realize that these people are great at looking good and at acting, but their emotions get in the way of reason. And you know, I see it playing out, I think, in a good way, and that I think right now in the world we live in, Americans have woken up to the reality that governments can only spend the money taken from them first, that draws down investment in companies they want to work for and that draws down their wages. And so I don't think most Americans are going for this idea that public employee unions should be paid enormous salaries relative to them in many instances and should have enormous defined benefit programs rather than defined contribution plans, which is what we have to deal with in the private sector.
Imagine having a job at a private, small little company or working for a couple guys, and at the end of 30 years, you have $50,000 a year every year the rest of your life waiting in a pension. I mean, that would be, if somebody has $1 million in cash sitting off to the side and they get 5% of their money, that gives them $50,000 a year, which means, that's not a bad deal. But give me your reaction politically to this circumstance. For many years, your friends on the left have described every federal spending program as, quote, investment. Spending is bad, investment is good. And now what I hear is the phrase is attack on the middle class, assault on the middle class, when only about 10% of the middle class is in a labor union, public or private. And so instead of it public employee benefits, that they've rephrased it much like spending became investment. Now public employee benefits is an attack on the middle class. And they want to gather around them members unconnected to their cause because they want to make other people believe they're being attacked.
Yeah, well, attack, the big attack, and that's why I want states and the federal government default, is the attack has been for however many years we've been on this earth that governments continue to grow, and that's the attack on most of us who don't belong to unions and who don't work for the government but have to fund this behemoth. So for governments to grow and for public employee unions to have gold-plated benefits, that's the attack on the middle class because someone's paying for it, and it's the middle class through taxation, through reduced private company formation, and through reduced wages.
Right. That's what it is. And, in the little city of Cincinnati, I don't know if you've been to Cincinnati, but the city of Cincinnati is about 8 miles by 8 miles. It's a little city, has about 320,000 people in it. There's 2 million that live in the tri-state. 300,000 live in the city of Cincinnati. The Inquirer did a story about 2 weeks ago. And cops, after 25 years, retire with an income of about $100,000 a year for the rest of their life. Is that pretty good?
It sounds pretty good to me.
In addition to that, they have something called unused sick vacation and leave. And they did a study that the little city of Cincinnati owes in that one category of unused leave time $93 million. And so we have a police chief who's going to retire in about 2 weeks. He gets $100,000 a year the rest of his life, and he's only like 47 years old, $100,000 a year. He has a so-called drop program where the state participated with him that has a pot of gold of $1.1 million off to the side. In addition to that, he's got $400,000 in unused leave. So he walks away with $1.5 million in cash and $100,000 a year the rest of his life, and free medical for the rest of his life. How's that?
It's nice work if you can get it, but to the middle classes out there, I don't see how reducing this gold-plated retirement is an attack on the middle class. That sounds pretty good for most Americans to get that retirement, and let's face it, it's being paid by the average Cincinnatian.
And I don't blame Tom Stryker, Elder's finest, one bit. He didn't take a gun and went into management and said, this is what I get as a member. He got the same benefits as a union. He's not in the union, a police union, but he gets the same benefits. And so I don't blame him one bit. If somebody would offer you, John Tamney, after 25 years of good service, $1.4 million in cash plus $100,000 a year, wouldn't you take it?
I would take it. The difference is it would be hard to get in the private sector because in the private sector we basically fund our own retirements. The idea of a defined benefit plan is long past us, and that so the average American in the private sector pays into retirement and hopes that the value of that retirement plan continues to go up. I know this, that whatever retirement I get, it will be something funded by me. For government employees to get a major retirement package, that money has to come from somewhere. I mean, what do they always say? That the state is the great fiction whereby some individuals seek to live off of others, and that's exactly what's happening right here. It's a direct attack on the rich, poor, and middle class in Cincinnati.
The rich will be fine, the poor will be fine, the middle class are taking it in the shorts. And instead of being an assault on the middle class, what's an attack on the middle class is the confiscatory taxes they have to pay for these public employee unions. That's the attack.
That's the attack, and let's face it, let's always remember that rich guys like you and Russ, when you're taxed at confiscatory levels, that's an attack on the poor and the middle class. When you tax the successful, you reduce the amount of capital available for businesses to grow and to hire individuals. So they're not helping themselves by coming after people like you or anyone, the big Procter & Gamble executives in Cincinnati. How does it help the poor and middle class to go after, try to bleed the rich dry? It doesn't work. It ultimately hurts everyone. And it hurts the rich the least.
Well, the rich will be fine. Guys like you, you're going to be fine. But the poor's fine because of all the government benefits. But the middle class are the ones being squeezed from both ends. And, well, John, we got to run. You're a great American. Let's do it again.
Thanks, Bill.
John Tamney's the best. RealClearMarkets.com. Let's continue. 700 WLW. All right, Billy Cunningham, and let's have Jim and Carol on. I want to get to more callers. Jimmy LaBarbera thinks I should take fewer callers. Kevin Secar says more. But either way, I need to hear from the American people because what you say adjusts my viewpoints. I don't flip-flop on anything. I change a viewpoint based upon better information. That's not flip-flopping. That's not being obstinate. That's not being stupid. And just don't be a jackwagon. Don't be a jackwagon. That's all I ask. Let's go to Jim and Carol. Jim and Carol, welcome to the Bill Cunningham Show. Jim, how are you?
I'm fine, the great one. How are you?
I am a great American.
I know you are a great American. I was actually a union teacher at Sawyer Junior High School in Evanston back in 1980, and I was up there carrying a sign the other day, and I support what they say, and I agree with you. I think Shannon, you don't phrase it that way, but I think Shannon Jones has to go. She's hurting John Kasich.
Yeah.
And I know several state senators, and they don't really care for her. She's a
jackwagon.
Well, I'd call her other names, but, I try to be a gentleman because she is a lady, and I'll give her that.
Well, Jim, I do this. If I'm in charge, if I'm the grand potentate, what I do is get in the room the affected parties. Get the lawyers, get the union leaders, get management, get Department of Administrative Services. Get in a room, and let's work out 50 or 60 things out of 100 that everybody can agree to, and let's make those needed changes. What Shannon Jones did, your good friend, was put a turd in the punch bowl and said it's all or none, and then when it goes down under referendum in November, we'll be left with zero and no reform. I say 50 or 60 out of 100 is better than nothing.
Yes, I saw in 1958 what it did to the ticket with the right to work, and you are right. I am pro-union. I said to these people, I said, look, I voted for John Kasich. And they said, aren't you sorry you did? I said, no. I said, what did Strickland do for you?
Nothing.
Nothing. Right.
Nothing.
And that's what they said. And I said, what's he doing in the Capitol? He lost the election. He ought to go home. He ought to try to negotiate with our present governor. He's no longer governor. He acts like he is. He is a rebel rouser.
Jim, he is a bullhorn today with a soapbox turned upside down. He's screaming at people at the State House. And Ted Strickland is a former governor who, by the way, is going to run against John Kasich in 4 years again. The guy's a fool. He's done nothing for the working schlep except make it more difficult to find work. Under his administration, it lost 250,000 jobs, left Ohio. But don't be a fool and think these politicians care one twit about you. They don't.
Well, some do. I have 3 stickers on my car, and I think you support all 3. They are Dusty Rhodes,
Dusty Rhodes,
John Kasich, and they are Jeannie Schmidt.
I like all 3 of them.
I do, too. And I was, Dusty's a personal friend, and I've always helped him, and I don't care what their party is, and neither do you.
Jim, I don't care. Dusty Rhodes is a damn Democrat. And I love Democrats, and Democrats love me because I give them a fair shake. Let's continue with more. We have Don in Miami Heights and millions of others. Don in Miami Heights. Don, welcome to the Bill Cunningham Show. Don, how are you?
Yeah, Willie, you're a great American.
Well, I tell you what, I'd like to think I am because I have the wind beneath my wings. You're like the wind beneath my wings, Don, from Miami Heights.
I used to be a Tea Partyist because I believe in smaller government.
Me too.
But it is not the middle-class worker that's hurting this country. Take the city of Cincinnati.
Please.
Would we be in trouble if we didn't have the Freedom Center, the stadium deals, the streetcar?
No. We'd be in better shape.
Do you know in Westchester they're changing all the traffic lights?
You know, I'm in Westchester almost every night. What's happening there?
They're changing the traffic lights to a newer traffic light, and it's just wasting money. The old ones work fine.
I'm going to have to monitor the traffic lights in Westchester. I didn't know what I'm looking at anymore then.
Yeah, but it's who we elect who is wasting all this money.
Well, what we have to do, Don, is grow the economy, and we have to make Ohio business-friendly, and it's not business-friendly because of the EPA, government bureaucrats, and high taxation. We've got to lower the taxes, lower the bureaucratic regulations, and lower the influence of the EPA. Then the working schlep will come back here. But until that happens, we're not going to do anything significant because Honda plants want to locate in Greensburg, Indiana, not in Marysville, Ohio, because of what's the business climate here is so bad for American business. And without businesses growing, without taxes being low, which means less government benefits to the employees, this economy cannot recover.
The reason why Greensburg's got it is because of the casino. They paid tax dollars to give them a tax break.
Yeah, and we're going to get the casino now. We should have had 10 years ago.
Should have.
And right now, I'm so happy that Dan Gilbert and Matt Cullen and Chip Gerhardt and Kevin Klein are going to be here to give us a $400 million casino. It's going to be like there's a Super Bowl every day in the city of Cincinnati, but that's going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years to generate tax revenues. But the only reason there's a Greensburg Honda plant is because Indiana officials had incentives from the casino to build, and secondly, they have less rules, less regulation, and less restrictions from the EPA. That's why it's there. Ohio's losing out. We got to change business in the state of Ohio and become business friendly. And I think Kasich's on the right path.